Hey Adventurers, today we are doing the wrap-up for, the end of the year wrap-up for 2021. This includes our December wrap-up and then just kind of goes over a little bit of our stats for the year of 2021. So we will start with our December wrap-up and Kate will do the first book.
The first book I have on my list here is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. I really enjoyed this book. I wasn't sure what to think of it, and I don't think I talked about it last month, but if I did, I apologize for the rehash. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's about Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and his sister, Nan Roll. So, it was good.
The first book that I finished in the month of December was The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. This is book 2 of The Wheel of Time. I've talked about it, I've got a review of it up. I don't really need to continue on with it. Suffice it to say I liked it. Not my favorite, I didn't like it as much as book 1, but I thought it was good.
The next book on my list is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Another book I really wasn't sure what to expect or think of. I did really enjoy it. It was a good book and it was good, but it wasn't great. And I know I've heard that a lot about people, and I wish I could say it was great and I wanted it to be great, but then the ending you're just kind of like, oh, okay. So.
Then I have The Blinding Knife by Brent. This is book 2 of the Lightbringer series. Story-wise, it was better than book 1. Content-wise, it was not as good as book 1. There was some more adult content and an excessive amount of language in it. Other than that, it was phenomenal.
So the next book I've got here is Gunslinger by Stephen King. This is the first book in the Dark Tower series. I didn't enjoy Gunslinger as much as I was hoping to, especially since the Dark Tower series has a really great reputation as being a fantastic fantasy, especially coming from someone who writes primarily horror and thriller genre. So I didn't love the Gunslinger. People told me to, or I think I watched a video that said, I don't know, I decided to read the next one for whatever reason. I think someone said that the second one was better than the first one, that was it. So I read The Drawing of the Three also, and I liked it way more than I did The Gunslinger, and I'm excited to continue on with the series. And as far as Stephen King's writing goes, it's probably some of my favorite books of his, some of them.
But then I read Mrs. Mike. This was a historical fiction. Who was it written by? Benedict and Nancy Freeman, I believe. Friedman. Anyways, it was a historical fiction about a girl from Boston who goes to Canada to live with her uncle because of health problems, and they tell her she needs fresh air, but then she ends up going farther north in Canada into the Great Northwest Territories and just starts a life there and has to deal with the struggle of living life in I want to say Alaska, but Canada. I wasn't particularly invested in it while I was reading it or before I started it, but then by the end I was like, well, it was a good book. So it was a really good story. Kind of sad, bit of a tragedy in many ways, and I like tragedies, so.
So the next book I read was Within These Lines by Stephanie Morrill. Okay, I'm just gonna get this out for these guys. Within These Lines by Stephanie Morrill. It's a historical fiction set in World War II that focuses on the American side and the concentration camps that the Japanese were sent to. I thought it was very eye-opening. Sometimes there's like little sections of history that you just miss somehow, and that was definitely one of them for me. So I'm really glad I read it because I learned a lot and it made me want to learn more. So I ended up, researching things after that.
And then I listened to How to Twist a Dragon's Tail. This is the How to Train Your Dragon book, I think 5. So far it's the best of the How to Train Your Dragon books. Very similar to all the other ones. Well, in my opinion, the best of them. I liked it the most. Very similar in many ways. Basically the same story over and over again in each book. But the just little nuances and things that are changed in each book, this one was done the best, in my opinion.
So I also read The Crucible by Arthur Miller this month. And I was excited to get into this because I just read Cyrano de Bergerac, so I was in the mindset for reading plays, so that's why I decided to go with Crucible. And it's a shorter book, but I don't think I was following it well, and I want to watch like a movie about the Crucible to see what ties it together, because I feel like I'm missing something really obvious about how it all ties together, because like I read it and I'm just like, that was just a lot of talking. So I know I'm missing parts, and I know it's based on historical things, so with names and that type of information, but I really just went over my head. So I need some supplementary story about the Crucible. Whether that's like Spark Notes, that I need to go read through the Spark Notes or something, but.
And then my reread of The Hobbit. This was, I want to say my 6th reread. May have been more, may have been less, but I think it's about my 6th reread of The Hobbit. And it's every single time you read it, it's as good, if not better, as all the previous times you've read it, and just you remember certain things that you've forgotten. You pick up on other little things that you didn't pick up on in the past, and it's a phenomenal book. Well worth your read if you haven't. Yeah.
And then I read Sweep by Jonathan Oxier, I think. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I said that right, and wasn't adding extra letters in there, which I might be still, who knows. It's called The Story of a Girl and Her Monster, so I was really looking forward to it, and I did really like it. It was very well written, and it was endearing, one of those really sweet books, but it didn't lack for story. So I really appreciated the characters and the lore that went into it, the Jewish lore, and it was just overall a really, really enjoyable book, and I had a lot of fun reading it.
And the last book that I read in December was Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmund Rostand. This is, Kate talked about it recently, but it's written as a play because it was written to be a play, but it's also written about a fictionalized version about a real person in history, real novelist in history, very, very fictionalized, dramatized, but it's a phenomenal story.
So witty.
It's a tragedy, and I love tragedies, as I already mentioned, so it just really, really good story, and well worth the read if you haven't. It's super short, super easy. I think I read it in 3 days because I was trying to get one more book done before the end of the year type thing. It's really good.
And then we wanted to give you guys a summary of our overall reading, and we're not going to go through and list everything because if you've been watching us, you've been keeping up with our wrap-ups, and we did this last year and it turned into a really long video. So we're just going to tell you our totals. Would you like me to reveal mine, or you do?
Go ahead.
Jordan. Okay. I had a total of 52 books completed in this year, not counting. I only counted like 1 or 2 of my nonfiction, so I didn't count most of my nonfictions in there. And that also doesn't count any of the books that I read like half of and DNF'd. But I'm pretty excited. That was cool. 52 books.
I had a total of 60 books that I finished in the year 2021. A couple of them I had started, well, specifically one, Rhythm of War. It was the first book I finished in January, and I had started it in December. So I think that's the only one that I started in 2020 and carried into 2021. But all the other books I read in 2021, all 60 of them, and there's some that I started and haven't finished yet. There's probably 5 that I started and haven't finished yet, so including some temporary DNFs, ones that I just had to set down and we'll get back to later, probably restart from the beginning and continue through because it's been a while now.
And then Tony, when he wrote out this format for me to fill in and for him to fill in, he said pick your favorite book of the year, and that's just ridiculous because we can't pick one book that's our favorite. I mean, we try. I narrowed it down to 3.
So did I. Oh,
I scraped it down to 3. You have 4.
I have 4. I almost had 5 or 6.
I mean, I had a lot that I was shifting through as well.
So I'll go first on these ones. I did end up doing kind of 3 different genres, and for my fantasy genre, it was between A Wizard of Earthsea, Northrop Eden, and The Black Prism. I decided to I don't think The Black Prism, as much as I loved it, I don't think and just the pure enjoyment of reading the story and experiencing the story was as high with that one as A Wizard of Earthsea or Northrop Eden. So those are the 2 that are the top contenders for my fantasy favorite book of the year.
The first book that I thought of as I was looking through the books I read in 2021 was Dust by Cara Swanson. I've been talking about this book all year long, guys. I loved it. It was fantastic, and it's definitely stuck with me, and I'm already, I want to reread it already. It was really well done. So Dust is one of my top 3 that I chose.
One of the other genres that I chose would be historical fiction. This is also mystery, revenge, lots of other subgenres, but it is, if you can't tell from those subgenres, it's the Count of Monte Cristo. This was one of the best books by far that I've read in a very, very long time. I loved it so much, and it was hard to get through just because of its length, but it was really good and really well worth it for me.
So the other book I have is Zorro by Isabella Linde. This is a book I didn't know what to think of, and I'm honestly a little bit surprised I loved it as much as I did because it has so much detail in it. It literally starts before Zorro, Diego de la Vega.
Don Diego de la Vega.
when he said is born and all the way up through his life, and like it literally is like a autobiography almost of his life. No, I'm sorry, a biography of his life. I do know the difference. So it was really, really fun. I loved Zorro. It was one of those books that I just loved from cover to cover. So it definitely made it in my top 3.
And the last book that I have, this is Arthurian, this is fantasy, fairy tale, all these different subgenres of that style type mixture there. But that is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I actually read it twice this year, once because I wanted to, and then the second time because of school, and the second time was a reread. But both times was phenomenal. It's such a good story. It might be my all-time favorite book that I read, or story that I read this year. There's lots of others, like I mentioned, there's 4 others that are right there with it, or 3 others that are right there with it already,
so
but it's very, very high up there and well worth the read. It's super short. It's written in poetry, rhyme, not a whole lot of rhyme. There is quite a bit, but it's not completely rhyme unless you're reading it in the Middle English, which is, I can't quite understand Middle English exactly, but I would read through and look a little bit at it, and it was really cool and really fun to see.
So the last book I chose for one of my top 3 was Sweep by Jonathan Oxier. So this is a recent read for me, which is probably why it made it on this list. I kind of like to see if books stick with me after time. So we'll see what happens with Sweep, but I loved it. It was great.
So that is the end of the year wrap up for 2021. I think if you've got any other random questions about our stats or anything from 2021, let us know. We'd love to let you know if it's something that you're interested in. This has been a really good reading year for both of us.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to hit 60 books. I was hoping I would. It was my goal, but I wasn't expecting to, and then I did. So I'm very happy with that, and I'm very excited to go into this new year and see what I can get read from there.
Thank you all for watching the Reread Adventure. Happy New Year.
Yeah. We post videos every Monday and Thursday. We have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon.